Several familiar and controversial issues moved through the Iowa General Assembly this 10th week. Monday, the House took up Senate File 252 that stops cities from requiring landlords to accept government-sponsored vouchers from low-income renters. Republican Representative Dave Dio was the floor manager.
Senate File 252 is a bill that prohibits counties and cities from imposing an ordinance or resolution prohibiting someone with the right to lease a dwelling unit from refusing to rent to a person because of their use of a federal housing voucher. Really what this bill is about is the federal Section 8 housing program and the fact that that's a voluntary program, and we want to make sure that it remains voluntary for property owners and they can decide whether they want to participate or not.
Housing is a key factor to well-being of a person and their success in life. And right now with this Senate file, we're limiting those housing options. Less than 15 years ago, I myself lived on Section 8 housing as a single mother. And without having that assistance, which I only used for about a year, I may not be here today as a legislator, as a business owner, or even a college graduate.
Okay.
Without having that hand up, I might still be in that circle of poverty. I may not have accomplished a lot of the things that I have, and I'm really, really disappointed that we're limiting these options for our most vulnerable populations today.
Several proposed Democratic amendments were rejected, and the bill was passed, and the Senate agreed on Wednesday it should reach the governor soon. Tuesday, the House debated diversity education and training. House File 802 would prohibit any government entity from teaching divisive concepts. Several lawmakers from both parties added their personal stories to the discussion.
Growing up in a big city, this idea and concept of critical race theory is very well established where I come from. Being here, I've learned that words are important. Reading all the bills, making sure that the intent that we have is there. So when I hear words like offensive, systemic racism, minority, sexism, implicit bias, those words to me are, I understand those words as sin. There's nothing inclusive in the critical race theory. There's an element of this in critical race theory that we haven't touched on, I don't think, too much, and that is victimhood. You don't have to tell a child or a young person that someone is better than you. All you have to do is tell them over and over that they are victims of everything and everyone around them. Implicit bias. For the people who cannot see me online, I am wearing a sombrero, I am wearing chanclas, and I am leaning on a cactus, taking a nap. Mr. Speaker, I support this bill.
But anyway, when I was in junior high, my counselor came to me, he said, Akeo, he said, you know, one of the things that you have to understand is that you're not smart enough to go to high school. You're not smart enough to even think about college. But I got a friend that works at the tire and rubber company that we can probably get you a job and you can retire. Years later, to make a long story short, I found out he told that to all the black kids, especially the black males, because that was his reference point.
I was born in Korea. My mom is Korean. I was born in a Korean hospital. I was naturalized, brought over, grew up in Texas, parts of Texas, ended up in Georgia in the mid to late 80s. And I will tell you that I've been called everything. I've been called the C word and the G word. I've been called the J word. In high school, I dated an African-American lady. I was called an N lover. And it sickens me that we have to deal with those issues. And this is 2021. I completely support diversity. and diversity training. But my problem is, how are we teaching diversity?
The House will pay attention to the results of the vote. Those voting aye, 59. Those voting no, 36. Absent or not voting, 5. The bill, having received a constitutional majority, is declared to have passed the House.
Wednesday, the House debated House File 756 that would protect arms manufacturers from liability.
Just last year, we had a case in which an armed assailant went into a church in Texas, I believe it was, and opened fire, killing innocent people. Within moments, a well-trained churchgoer working security for the church killed the killer. In a split second, a firearm was used to kill innocent people by a criminal, and a firearm was used by a hero to stop further loss of innocent life. The firearms involved were neither good or evil, innocent or guilty. It's not about the gun. It's about the character of the person holding the gun. It is about personal responsibility. The criminal who uses a firearm for nefarious purposes is at fault, just as the good citizen who uses a firearm to protect the innocent is a hero. In both instances, the firearm is merely an instrument. This common sense legislation is needed due to the efforts of some who fear freedom and the Second Amendment more than they fear tyranny.
There were 3 proposed Democratic amendments, but they were defeated along nearly party line votes. Wednesday, the House discussed an omnibus firearms bill.
Democrats support the Second Amendment. No constitutional amendment is absolute. Background checks keep firearms out of the hands of felons, domestic abusers, and those who have a serious mental health disorder. Background checks are reasonable. Law-abiding citizens have full access to firearms, even if they have to go through a background check. Repealing Iowa's bedrock public safety laws, such as our background check law and the permitting requirement for carrying a concealed gun, is extreme. It is unpopular, and it is a threat to public safety.
And we can have times where we disagree. That's what we do. That's what makes Iowa better. That's what makes us better as legislators. So, Representative Wessel-Kroschel, you can take to the floor all day long and say that you believe that this eliminates background checks. I'm going to take to the floor here tonight, and I'm going to say it doesn't. Because it doesn't.
All 6 Democratic amendments were either withdrawn or defeated.
Those voting aye, 60. Those voting no, 37. Absent or not voting, 3. The bill having received a constitutional majority is declared to pass the House.
The Iowa General Assembly resumes next week on the first Monday of spring, March 22nd.